Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, wherever you're signing in from. I was shopping this weekend and I met a woman who was interested in learning how to feed her body. And she said that the thing that she was struggling with the most was the mindset behind it. And so I wanted to speak a little bit into why and how mindset and awareness practices are so incredibly imperative for the kind of work that we do inside of the Green Door Life, inside of just transformation in general in our life. And I just wanted to speak into that a little bit more because we don't speak into it as often when we're talking about nutrition or training and all of those things. So hello, whoever's joining. Happy Monday. I hope this is a welcome little listen in for you. I'll try to make it as valuable as possible. So we talk a lot about mindset. We talk a lot about awareness practices inside of the Green Door Life. And the reason why we do this is because what we've learned over the course of working with so many people is that we can give individuals all of the science of nutrition education. We can give individuals all the science of like their body types and strength training methodologies. But if they're still operating with unconscious behavior patterns, with unconscious beliefs about who they are or why they might be capable of something or not capable of something else, the knowledge that they've gained from the science that they've learned through us, it won't stick. It won't have anything to stick to because the underlying operating system is still coming from a place that is from an unconscious story. And if this kind of dialogue is new to you guys, this is what I mean. So we go throughout our lives, as we all know, in different aspects, absorbing from our environment, absorbing the stimuluses from our parents, absorbing the stimuluses from our school, from whatever it is that is around us when we're growing up. And as a result, we will develop these stories or these scripts or these ways of being in order to survive our environment, which is super, super normal. But if some of those things that we're surviving don't currently exist anymore, and we are unconsciously bringing our past survival techniques that really served us really, really well in the past, but if we're bringing them into the future with us, it can keep us stuck. It can keep us basically in an identity that no longer is the identity that we want to be in. So this is where the mindset and awareness practices come into play. And it is like hands down my favorite part to lead groups through. And it's my favorite part to go into myself because it allows us to become something new if we choose regularly. So when I say that, when I think about becoming something new, the first thing that is required is to first have awareness of the thing. So if I am aware that a conversation is happening in my mind, then I can further become aware of where that conversation might be serving me and where it might actually be limiting me from moving forward in the direction that I want to go forward into, right? So here's an example, and give me a heart if you have ever been able to witness yourself having a dialogue like this. So this happened kind of recently, but it's one of my favorite examples. It's so simple. So I was in the kitchen and I'm walking by a dish that hasn't been dried. And my mind on its own is like, yo, you gonna dry that dish? Yeah, I mean, it's just sitting there. You gonna dry it? And I'm having this conversation with myself, I'm like, well, I don't really have to dry it right now. I could dry it later. But then the other conversation is like, well, you're going to know if you don't dry it now. There's like this whole vocabulary going on. So I am both having the conversation in my mind and being a witness of the conversation in my mind. If I was not aware that this conversation was happening, if I didn't have the awareness to basically be like, oh, there's this wild dialogue that's going on about a dish, and I'm making meaning out of this dish experience. If I didn't have the awareness of it, that experience, that dialogue could cause a chemical reaction in my body that would otherwise be known as an emotion. And that emotion might be anxiety. That emotion might be frustration. That emotion might be self-criticism, right? I'm walking around and I'm basically criticizing myself for not doing something that I think I should be doing. And therefore, it would cause this emotional reaction in myself. If I'm not aware that that dialogue is going on, then this emotional chemical reaction could be happening in my body where I am really not super clear on why it's there. So when we're looking to transform into something new, with this simple example, this is a part of my identity that basically has me acting or has me stuck in a way where I am essentially holding myself to a certain standard. And if I don't accomplish that standard, then that means something about me, or I've created it to mean something. So if I'm not aware of that, then I will go throughout my life in big or small areas enacting or reenacting this type of identity that holds herself up to very, very high standards. And if I don't accomplish that, then I've failed. Let's say that that's the full dialogue. So when we move into actually wanting to transform something completely, especially ourselves, because let's kind of be real, it's the only thing that I believe that we can ever truly change or control, it's us. And awareness is where we have that doorway, where that we have that capacity to change something. So if I really want to change it, I first need to bring awareness to the thing that I want to change. So in this circumstance, I'd want to go, okay, I'm having this dialogue. Let's look at what's happening in reality real quick. So yeah, there's a dish on the counter, for example, in this example. Does it really matter whether I dry it now or not? No? Okay. Is anyone else going to see it? No? Okay. Would it cause me any sort of grievance if I were to not dry that dish right now? If it's a yes, then maybe I dry it and I go on with my day. If it's a no, then maybe I learn from that and I decide something new. Be like, you know what? I'm gonna put a pin in it. So it's a very simple example, but here's the thing that is the extended example of this, is that when we're aware of the conversations that are happening in our own mind, when we actually are able to hold the witness perspective and be aware of them in such a way, then we can further be aware of when those internal dialogues are actually directed towards the people in our environment. So when we experience certain expectations of others or self-criticism of others, criticism or judgment of others, that's generally a reflection of the self-dialogue or the criticism or the judgments that we might have with ourselves, the expectations we might have with ourselves. So it's a really pretty profound and transformative experience if we're able to hold the witness perspective for our own dialogue and then realize that that dialogue is then reflected back in absolutely every relationship that we have in our life. So this circles back to when we are able to really implement this new level of self-care from a conscious place, from a place of being kind and generous and compassionate with ourselves, then by just that simple principle, it starts to emit and it starts to affect those in our surrounding spaces. So this is the second part of what we do with our nutrition and health mentorship, is we talk about the mindset of things. Because the mindset, in my experience, and both from like my personal experience in life and in my experience with working with so many individuals through these 12-week containers, is that if we are still running these unconscious beliefs about ourselves, about what we're capable of, about what we actually want to be in our life, who we actually want to be when we express out into the world, if we're not really truly connected with that and we're still running identities or dialogues that are coming from our parents, or they're coming from, something that happened to us when we went to school when we were younger, we can never truly step into that next phase for ourselves. And sometimes it's really challenging to see it from the inside. Sometimes we can. And when we can, it's absolutely transformative. And I'm always so in awe when I am with people who are really able to see where they're stuck inside of themselves. I'm like, wow, man, it's a superpower, really. But for most of us, we can't see what other people can see. We can't see the container or the stories that we're basically playing over and over and over again. So here's a little tip for you guys, for you watching now or later. So the thing that really signifies a story to me is either going to be a repetitive script. So when you hear yourself saying the same thing over and over again, when you hear yourself making the same excuses or putting up the same wall, right? I can't do this because I will be seen as this. I can't do this because it will feel like this. I can't do this because I'm scared of this. You're going to start to notice that there's a repetitive pattern in there somewhere. There's a repetitive story or script that you're essentially telling yourself. And when we're aware of what that thing is, it gives us access to actually open up the dialogue and be like, wow, well, is that true? And asking if it's true is really going to be one of the key factors, because the thing about our stories is the stories are based on past. The stories are never based on reality that's happening in the present. So here's one of the examples that we do in one of our weeks. We take a cup like this. And for all of us, we know that this is just a cup. And the cup is just cupping. This cup in particular is cupping with a Prince quote on it. But more or less, the cup is just cupping. So from my perspective, I will have a certain type of relationship with this cup, especially if I am coming from an unconscious place. And maybe it's a conscious place. But let's say the story could be like this. The story could be like, this is my favorite cup. I love this cup. I don't want anyone else touching my cup because that's how much I want and love this cup. It's not really how I feel, but it could be. So I have an opinion, an experience, and an emotional reaction and attachment to this cup. But the cup is just cupping. Someone that comes over to the house for the first time and uses this cup or even sees this cup would have a very different reaction to this cup. They have no personal ties, no experience from the past, and maybe they saw it in a store sometime. They're like, oh my God, I recognize that cup. That's it. That's the limiting experience of this cup that they have. So we have two different perspectives, right? But the cup is just cupping. So anything in our life, there's going to be something that is quote unquote happening, or there's going to be objective something that we are looking at and dealing with in our life. If we can zoom out and look at, okay, what is the reality of the thing that's happening? In this case, it's a cup that is just cupping. It's just being a cup. But then there's the thought that I have about the cup. There's the emotional tie. There's the nostalgia. There's the thing that I have brought from my past experience into the present moment and made meaning about this cup. So from that thought, now there's going to be an emotional reaction. So that emotion is then what's causing a chemical exchange in my body and thus creating the reality that I'm experiencing in my current state. But the cup is just cupping, right? So when we are able to understand and to actually separate what's happening in reality, cupping, and what is happening in our thoughts and then therefore our emotions, and we find some space between the two, we can then start to build new dialogues and new stories for ourselves that will give us space and essentially freedom to choose one of infinite possibilities or ways of being in response to whatever that thing is. So I hope you guys have been able to stay at least for this part. And if you didn't get to see this, please watch it again if this is new to you, because it's a super, super powerful concept. But it's like any other muscle. So when we are unconscious that we can contract a muscle, whether it's a mental muscle or a physical muscle, if we don't know essentially how to contract it, which essentially takes practice, then we don't know that this is even available to us. And if we don't know what's available to us, then we are essentially going to be consistently run by old stories and old behavior patterns if we don't get in front of it. So this is something that we do inside of our programs, right? And so here's what it looks like in reality. For the first 6 weeks, we build the repetition, the practice, the actual tangible thing of chopping wood and carrying water, right? You eat your food, you do your movement, you see how your body feels, you make adjustments as necessary for the first 6 weeks, and you make it for real life, for traveling, for dining out, for alcohol, if that's a thing, for eating with your family, meal prepping at home, all of that kind of stuff. Like, how do you actually want to treat your body? How do you want to implement that really high level of self-care practice for you, for this new way of being that you're looking to step into? And then from there, from week 6 to 12, we start going into, okay, where are you getting stuck? Where are you naturally bumping up against yourself? Where you're like, oh shoot, I really thought I had this, but then this thing is happening and I'm getting stuck, which happens to pretty much everyone. Like 90% of individuals, when they're going through learning anything new, they get stuck with themselves at a certain place. So the second 6 weeks are all about that. It's about bringing to mind your past identity. It's about bringing this space of awareness of what's happening in reality. Where do you actually want to get to? And where are old stories standing in your way, preventing you from getting to that place? And having another person there that can reflect back to you, not telling you what is or what isn't, but can reflect back to you what your own experience is, allows you this opportunity to see yourself from a different perspective, which is wild and super profound and a really cool thing about the human experience. So this is one of the aspects that comes in this particular coaching experience and container that we hold, especially within our group. So our group starting in April has this kind of element in it. And what's even more fascinating is that when you get to hear other individuals reflect back their experiences, it gives you a bigger perspective on the human experience. So I've talked about this before, but I'm going to talk about it again. There's something called heart-brain coherence. And just this topic I love so much because it's just freaking cool and I like to nerd out on it. So heart-brain coherence is essentially something that occurs when we know that we are doing something with another person. So that we're either like team sports is a great example, or synchronized swimming. When we're doing something and we know we're as a part of a team, a part of a group that's doing it alongside of us, not only does our performance increase, like our actual performance improves, and I see this time and time again in our group coaching programs, but also our heart-brain coherence actually syncs up. So there is a neurological and overall health benefit from actually having a goal and doing it with a group. And this is just freaking rad. I mean, I'm a nerd. I like to geek out on this stuff. But so when you're in any sort of time in your life where you're like, man, I really want to get super good at this one thing. I really want to learn how to do this. When you do it in a group, your performance accelerates and your perspective gets bigger because you have more perspectives to learn from. And there's this heart-brain coherence that starts to happen where you actually help each other to get to the next level because you're synchronizing in a way. And it's the coolest thing to see as a practitioner, and it's just the coolest thing to be a part of. So that is what I wanted to speak into today, a little bit about the mindset. And I'm going to put this little graphic as the cover image for this live today. And it's one of the graphics that we use in one of our group coaching weeks. And it's just such a great way to just kind of see, okay, it's the thing, the thought about the thing, and then the emotion that happens with the thought about the thing. So that's it for today. I hope everyone's having a really beautiful Monday so far. And if you guys have any questions, send us a DM. If you're interested in learning more about group, drop group in the comments below, and we'll send you some information, and we're excited to see who magnetizes to this next cohort. I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time. Mwah. Thank you for joining.